It's the Bronze Age collapse, so you know what that means. It's time for an IRSU legendary challenge where we're gonna burn the whole world down. So here's a few rules, first of all. Natural disasters on highest frequency, so plague and famine are gonna be my best friends. Sea people and other invaders to the max, that's gonna be fun. No diplomacy, no trading. If I starve, I starve. Everybody's gonna be my target, and well, if somebody wants to be my little bit, client kingdom, maybe that'll be acceptable. And most importantly of all, if we lose a battle, the campaign is over. So, let's dive in. Isn't this just such a lovely day in Canaan? What's the worst that could possibly happen? Oh, IRSU. Imagine this, you're just trying to have a nice, relaxing day pillaging and burning, and then all of a sudden, an enemy army comes to try and stop you. Well, what would IRSU do? Oh, this is actually really easy. Kill them all. IRSU's band of misfits and marauders comes from so many different areas of Canaan. We're talking about Northern Syriacs, even the Fenhu, and most importantly for us, the Shasu, which were semi-nomadic or fully nomadic cattle herders, which gave the Egyptians a monstrous headache, especially in Canaan and Lower Sinai. Now we also have the Abiru, the infamous murder machines of the Amarna period. So many text documents just speak about how, well, much of a shitstorm they caused, essentially. And if you want to learn some more interesting historical tidbits, look at the pop-up at the bottom of the screen. So now we're just gonna actually try to get a devastating flank off with the Abiru. Their archers are free firing, but we're also trying to destroy their archers, that's okay. Just gonna try to get a good flank off into their general here. And now, speaking of generals, Big Boy himself is gonna charge into the fray. IRSU goes in like the maniac he is. He does not care about the arrow wall he's firing on. He's gonna get for a good charge here. He does have a spear though. Not much damage, but he is tanky, and just look at him crash into the Canaanite bodyguard. A battle of the two extremely well-equipped units here, but we already know our boy is gonna carry this. Especially when his friends over here. Now I gotta stop zooming in for YouTube. I actually got a micro, something legendary, blah blah blah. We're gonna get some decisive, disgusting charges over here. I'm not even worried about that. We're getting the Abiru to the side. This means that anything they connect to will just melt without any counterplay. They're getting shot at, but do we really care about that? No. IRSU just wants to see blood, and it doesn't matter where the blood comes from as long as it flows. Now we get a devastating Abiru charge into the rear of these Hupshu, and they are just going to be massacred. Hupshu, which were the farmy levers, and in this case Abiru lower tiers, just cannot stand against the Axe version. They are just murder machines fully. Okay, these archers instantly obliterated. Now we collapse the flank and go into the rear. These guys are actually just gonna go chase them. Why not? We need to get rid of them as soon as we can. Our front line is kind of failing here in the middle. IRSU is just trying to tank it out, so I'm just gonna bring in these guys to assist him. After all, he might pay us really well. You gotta remember, at the end of the day, we're just raiders and mercenaries, and we're trying to pillage the whole world. Another brutal rear charge. Abiru, more like, I killed... Okay, that was a terrible dad joke, pun, something. Don't unsubscribe. Anyway, this is just a slaughter. They can't stand anything. Look how much damage they already did to the general unit. Just from my rear charge is gonna break a lot of their armor. Abiru are just disgustingly cost-effective. If you can get the right angle for them, it's just game over. And here they're firing at Abiru militia, and it doesn't matter if they charge us, because our guys are pretty good at melee with the axe. And we're just gonna put them on guard mode, so they're actually firing volleys even if they're in melee combat. Luckily here, there's no need for that. Just gonna disengage a little bit, and the others will just, like, massacre them. That is perfect rest. Here, though, we will get a charge off, just because our guys are equipped well enough for melee. We scared that unit off, we can get it back to the battlefield. Here, we collapsed the flank with these guys. We're gonna get the Shasu to pin down. Now, let's take a look at the cattle herders which gave Egypt such a tough time in the Sinai. Yeah, they're wearing some pretty drip headgear, I'm not gonna lie. They're just coming to club, doing what they do best, and the general has been obliterated. You thought you could mess with IRSU? Of course not. We already know what this is gonna be. More money. Oh, isn't this just sweet? The Canaanites are offering me another free city, but apparently I have to sign the parchment with their blood. You know what? IRSU does not complain. We're fighting for the ancient city of Damascus, or Damascus as it was known to the Egyptians, and this is one of the oldest continuously inhabited cities in the world, like, ever. So what better way to honor such a city with a great legacy by giving it a giant tidal wave of blood? So here, the Abiru charged the enemy's exposed general, which was kind of interesting for them to just march it up. Meanwhile, here we're gonna get our dudes ready to engage, and here we also charge another general, because hey, apparently the AI really doesn't know what it wants to do with the generals. Now, because it's a thunderstorm, our archers are gonna have a terrible time here, but luckily at least we got units to somehow make up for that. We're gonna get the Shasu to bog down the Abiru while our Abiru go for that. These guys are actually gonna charge in just to keep these guys down. Perfect, perfect. And because it's legendary, they will have a big stat advantage over us, but that's why we will try to do something about the maneuvering. Perfect, we'll go around the sides. Everybody gets their counter charges off, and now we're just gonna have to pray that we demolish the enemies before they demolish us. The enemy's generals are kind of getting destroyed. That's great for us. IRSU loves unnecessary bloodshed. That's kind of the name of the game at the end of the day. We're gonna switch fire to those Abiru over there, and we're getting our Abiru to flank the skirmishers. Now, the devastation these guys can do for their price range is almost unmatched. They're fast, they hit hard, they party even harder, as you can see now. The Javelin men are about to be in for a nasty little surprise as soon as the Abiru connect into them. This is kinda like, you know, just taking a few straws and snapping them. Yeah, these guys are as good as dead, but you know what? Any sacrifice to Moloch is a worthy sacrifice, one would say. So now that we got them out of the picture, we can basically free ourselves up and go for a nice little recharge here. Meanwhile, the Abiru collapsed to this side. They're gonna charge into their friends on the other side. We got these guys to also charge into the enemy general, and I think that will be great for them. Can you really say no to shock units? It's just fun for the whole family. Well, assuming your family is the one that survives, you know? Just look at this brutal charge into the general's bodyguard. Two-handed units are amazing, and if the game lives long enough to receive a blood pack, this is just gonna look so brutal. Basically, they technically do outnumber us in a way, and they do have better troop quality when it comes to legendary artificial stat inflation, but we managed to collapse the right flank. IRSU truly is a spectacular warlord, and what other way to show it than by killing everybody else now? Great, the Shasu warriors, which are superior to our Shasu, believe it or not, because they got 80 armor. Yeah, they're gonna win. And also, Abiru are charging again to finish the job on the general. I mean, listen, if you ever heard me complain about shock units in older Total Wars, this time I am not gonna complain, okay? That's a first. The enemy just has nothing they can do about here. 2 outflanks was all it needed for the line to collapse, even on Legendary. The generals got slaughtered. Damascus is ours. Let's go. I love the smell of destroyed cities in the morning. And thanks to that, Damascus is ours and the pillage spree continues. Out of nowhere, Kadesh decide to raid us, so it's time for war. Apparently it's time for a different battle of Kadesh, and we seem to be monstrously outnumbered according to the auto-resolve, both in troop quality and quantity, but you know what? IRSU doesn't care. IRSU just wants blood. Isn't Kadesh so beautiful? But it's about to turn into a slaughter as they manage to assassinate their general unit with one unit of Abiru, the good old tried and tested special. We love to see that. Meanwhile, their reinforcements are actually marching across the river, but we've got such a fantastic location here with the hill and the river covering us that they will be decimated by the time they reach. Their front line is so much better than ours. Canaanite sellswords have huge armor, then they have precursor javelins. That is gonna hurt my Shasu, have no way in hell of surviving that. We do have veteran archers though, and they will do a great job at killing their squisher units and depleting some HP from the sellswords as they go across the water. Well, you know what? I'm not gonna keep him waiting, so let's just start in. We're gonna go in for some decisive charges over here. We're also gonna move our Abiru to do what they do best, and that's massacre the entire enemy army. Isn't that just perfect? Yep, it is. IRSU's gonna go into the sellswords. These guys are going here. Meanwhile, the archers are just firing away and hoping that something can happen. We have the perfect angle here. We're gonna reinforce on one side. Balhano here is moving in. He's gonna go for our archers. We're just gonna move them back a little bit, and we're gonna introduce him to an axe to the face from the veteran Abiru Raiders. Fantastic, fantastic. It's working out. Then we're gonna get these guys over here for a charge, and that, to me, is perfect. Abiru are marching there. They're gonna get a decisive charge into the flanks of the enemy. And one unit is actually gonna take the skirmishers away, because that is just awesome. Look here. The bait worked, and their general is just getting massacred by the Abiru. There is nothing more to say. Balhano, you just busted yourself? Okay, you know what? That was terrible. I'm never making puns again. So, Canaanite skirmishers over there, that's not looking good for us, so we gotta change the archer focus onto the javelin units, or we're gonna be royally screwed. This is a little bit different from the Kadesh in the history books, but we don't really care. We're just here to actually, you know, rewrite history with IRSU, the one guy whose legacy would probably just be one of gigantic bloodshed. Okay, we're down here with these guys. They can actually go and flank the enemy. Abiru doing what Abiru do best. Killing for money and sometimes for pleasure, because why not? Going across the water, you know, just getting their ankles wet, not like they're already soaked in blood by this time, and they get a beautiful rear charge into the Canaanite sellswords. Now, I wonder, was all the money in the world worth it for you guys for this? Probably not, but the bodies are already hitting the floor. We are decimating their general. Everything is going just as planned. More Abiru show up. They get a charge there, but we actually have to move them to this side, because this side's a little bit more open. Getting the skirmishers away, just hurting them so the other unit can also catch them. And this is another example of why the AI cannot stand up to a player. Just few simple micro orders and boom, the gigantic ranged killing power is just gone. The Abiru managed to rout them instantly. These guys are still firing. Slingers are not relevant for us, however. We do not care about the slingers. Okay, so their general here, Balhano, he is destroyed. That's fine for us. IRSU is tanking the sellswords. Considering IRSU has a spear loadout, that is honestly his only job, to tank. He will kill with a better weapon loadout. These guys are still fighting. Let me take a look at the Abiru archers. Oh yeah, they still got some volleys, and they're just decimating the lightly armored enemy troops. Though they're managing to get some better angles into the javelins, because going into the Canaanite sellswords would just be a terrible, terrible idea. Meanwhile, Abiru just smashing the skirmishers. The Shasu are surprisingly holding well into the sellswords, though that is something I didn't really expect to see, just considering sellswords are such a grindy unit, and Abiru and Shasu are very squishy. We're talking like 30 armor for the Shasu. But as you can see, the arrow fires are also helping decisively. We are winning this. We're gonna send them home packing in body bags, or better said, as burnt offerings to Moloch. And I think Kadesh just got crushed. Okay, that was a terrible dad joke pun. You are free to judge me for that. I have no regrets. Or maybe some, but we don't really talk about those on the video. Anyway, it's time to decide the fate of Kadesh. Damascus is done, and we've crushed Kadesh. And that's just the beginning of our little Canaanite kingdom that's gonna burn the rest of the world down to ashes. But who knows what's gonna happen, and maybe another party shows up to crash this place. That's something you're just gonna have to find out. And until the next time,